we come to the topic of electrical events during neuronal excitation. So first of all, we need to know the resting membrane potential. Always we know that the resting membrane potential is going to be negative. And in this situation of nerve fibers, the negativity is going to be minus 65 millivolts. And one thing that you need to know is that whenever we will make it towards zero or we will make it positive, it will be excited. But whenever we will make it negative, like less than minus 65, like minus 75, minus 85, what will happen in this situation? It will be less excitable. So positivity means more excitable and negativity means less excitable. As you can see, they are stating over here that less negative value or a little bit positive value makes it more excitable, whereas more negative value, it means the membrane is difficult to be excited. Now we will consider about the concentration differences of the ions across neuronal membranes. If you understand this figure 46.9, you understand each and everything. So now what is this? This is the cell body. This is the dendroid. This is the axon. So now in the cell body, what is that sodium ions, they are less in number on the inside, whereas they are more in number on the outside. So outside they are 142, on the inside they are 14. Then potassium ions, since cell is a bag of potassium, so potassium ions will be more on the inside, that is 120, and 4.5 on the outside. And chloride ions, they will be more on the outside, that is 107, and less on the inside, that is 8 milliequivalent. And due to all these activities, we will have potential of minus 65 millivolts. Now since you have passed your first year and you know this formula, which is known as the Nernst potential, which is going to help us calculate the EMF, which is the EMF by the concentration difference of the ions. For example, this formula helps us to calculate the EMF. EMF is plus minus 61 multiplied by the log of the concentration on the inside by the concentration on the outside. For the sodium ions, so let us consider the EMF for sodium ions, which is plus minus 61 multiplied by log of sodium ions on the inside, which is like 14, and on the outside, which is 142, and this one comes out to be plus 61 millivolt. But the reference value is minus 65 millivolts. So what will happen? The sodium ions will be pumped onto the outside. The sodium ions will be pumped onto the outside. The net effect will. So you can see with this arrow, the net effect is pumping the sodium ions towards the outside. So now we come towards the EMF contributed by the potassium ions, which is plus minus 16 multiplied by log of inside the potassium ions were 120. Outside they were very close to 4.5. So the EMF they were giving was minus 86 millivolts. And the reference EMF is minus 65 millivolts. So now the potassium ions, they will be moving onto the inside, onto interior. You can see potassium ions are moving to the interior. Whenever there will be a negative potential, this will pull the ions to the interior. And whenever there will be a positive potential, like in the case of sodium that was plus 61, it will put them outwards. Now, what will be the case for chloride ions? When we calculate for the chloride ions, EMF is equals to plus minus 16 log of inside they were 8, outside it was 107. As a result of which we get the potential, which is something like minus 70 millivolts, and the main potential is minus 65 millivolts. Now what they have stated over here is that this minus 65 millivolts is slightly more negative than the actual value. This minus 70 millivolts is slightly more negative than the actual value, that is minus 65 millivolts. So therefore, the chloride ion tend to leak very slightly to the interior of the neuron. So one thing that you always need to remember is whenever the potential is negative than minus 65, like it's minus 70 or even lower, it will tend to pull that ion to the interior. Like chloride had the potential of minus 70. potassium had a potential of minus 86. Both of them will pull the ions to the interior, so they have their arrows going inside. But sodium, it has plus 61 millivolt. As a result, sodium ions will be moving to the exterior. Now these three nerves potential are very much responsible to excite or inhibit the neurons, because any changes that will occur in their you can say potentials, they will help to excite or inhibit your neuron. Now what they're saying is uniform distribution of the electrical potential inside the neuronal soma. As we know that the fluid that is inside the neuronal cell body, it is known as the intracellular fluid, and it is an electrolyte, and the diameter of that is 10 to 80 micrometers. Now any change that will occur at any point in the intracellular fluid of the neuronal cell body, the same change will be mimicked throughout that cell body, and this same changing being mimicked is known as the summation principle. So any change in any part will occur in the whole of the neuron cell body, and this is known as the summation principle. So now this diagram explains what is happening. So consider that there was a resting neuron having an interior negativity of minus 65 millivolt. But now an excitatory impulse comes, and certain neurotransmitter is released over here. Due to the release of this neurotransmitter, sodium ions, they diffuse to the interior, and they cause the minus 65 to move towards the positive side, that is minus 45 millivolt. As a result of which, now we call this minus 45 potential excitatory postsynaptic potential, and if it goes a little bit towards more positive side, then what will happen? Action potential will be elicited. Now we know that the membrane has to go from minus 65 to plus 20 millivolt for an action potential to be generated. So any potential which is between the two, it is known as excitatory postsynaptic potential, right? But now they are saying that due to the release of this one neuron, this one discharge, it is never going to go from minus 65 to minus 45. So the number of neurons that need to be discharged, the number of terminals that need to be discharged at such a point is 40 to 80 terminals being discharged simultaneously. Then it will release it to from minus 65 to minus 45. And this simultaneous discharge of a large number of the terminals, it is called the summation principle. Now we are going to discuss the generation of action potential in the initial segment of axon leaving the neuron and the threshold for excitation. Now you come to this point and you see this is cell body, and whenever an excitatory potential is going to come, it is going to excite the initial segment of axon rather than in the nerve cell body. Why is that so? Because the initial segment of the axon has a great number of 7 times greater number of the sodium channels. As a result of this great number of the sodium channels, it is very easy for it to have the potential go from minus 65 to minus 45, having a plus 20 millivolt difference. Similarly, in the cell body, it is very difficult to excite, and because of the lack of the calcium sodium channels, it will have to go plus 30 or plus 20 even plus 40 millivolts. That is, it has to go even positive than minus 45. That is why it is always going to, the excitation is always going to take place in the initial segment of the axon, and from there it will spread backward into the cell body, might sometime go into the dendrite, but due to the lack of sodium channels in the dendrite, it still remains limited to the axonal cell body and in the axon mainly. Now, the main principle behind this is that the excitatory postsynaptic potential is minus 45, and it is also known as the threshold potential, and it is plus 20 millivolts greater than minus 65. That is what you need to remember in this one paragraph. Now we come to the electrical events during neuronal inhibition. So consider this as your neuronal cell body. You always know that in inhibition, what will happen is the potassium and chloride channels, both of them will open. Now we will study about the distribution of potassium ions. Cell is a bag of potassium, so 120 on the inside is potassium, 4.5 on the outside. So where is potassium more? It is on the inside. So whenever the potassium channels will open, due to this potential gradient, they are going to be pushed to the outside. This is known as potassium efflux. Similarly, the chloride ions, they are more on the outside, that is 107, less on the inside, that is 8. Due to this, a potential gradient is generated, which will, whenever their channels will open, chloride will be pumped to the interior. This is known as chloride influx. So both of the condition, the potassium efflux going out of the positive ions and chloride influx that is coming in of the chloride ions, it makes the potential go from minus 65 to minus 70. That it becomes 5 millivolts more negative. And whenever I told you, whenever we are going to get negativity, it will become very much difficult for the neuron to be excited. So this minus 70 millivolt is inhibitory post-synaptic potential. So this is written over here as well, that mainly chloride channels will open, they will cause chloride influx. Potassium channels will open, they will cause potassium efflux. Moving out of positive ions, coming in of negative ions makes the membrane potential hyperpolarized. It goes to be called inhibitory postsynaptic potential. It makes the membrane potential more towards the negative side, having minus 5 millivolt, and it inhibits the transmission of nerve signals from the synapse. Now the inhibition we were studying till now, that was opening of the potassium channels, the potassium efflux and the chloride influx, that was all related to postsynaptic inhibition. Sometimes we also have this presynaptic inhibition. You know, whenever there is a synapse, there is presynaptic terminal and there is postsynaptic terminal. So we studied about postsynaptic terminal. Now we come towards presynaptic terminal. Sometimes there is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, that is gamma aminobutyric acid or GABA. This causes chloride channels to open. The chloride ions, they diffuse inside and they prevent sodium ions to go into the synaptic cleft. When sodium ions cannot go into the synaptic cleft and the membrane potential becomes more negative, threshold is not reached, as a result of which the presynaptic inhibition takes place and your neuron is inhibited even before the neuron potential reaches the synaptic cleft. This is how presynaptic inhibition takes place, and it is usually done by inhibitory neurotransmitters like GABA, like glycine, etc., like dopamine as well. So now we come to the time course of postsynaptic potential. They are actually saying that whenever the sodium ion, they come to the interior, they cause a little bit increase in the resting membrane potential. Rather, it goes from minus 65 towards the positive side. And if this potential is good enough to reach the threshold, it can initiate an action potential. But this dies down soon after the 15 seconds. So you can see the 15 seconds or milliseconds is the minimum time for this to take place. Another thing is that inhibitory postsynaptic. Now inhibitory, what will it do? It will take the resting membrane potential towards the negative side. The potential will become, for example, this is your line that is resting at minus 65. So in this situation of inhibitory one, it will go a little bit downwards, that is about minus 70 millivolts. And now if we write it like 5, 10, 15 milliseconds, so it always dies down in that 15 milliseconds. So you can see it was going up to minus 70, then it died down at the level of 15 milliseconds. So this is the time period it takes. But they are saying that there are some neuropeptides, like we studied about the neuropeptide transmitter, which was nitric oxide, which has the ability to undergo, for the neuron to undergo long time inhibition. This long time inhibition is what causes the death of people in certain cases. That is why nitric oxide gases can be very poisonous and they can cause the death of people. That is how the inhibitory and excitatory neuronal action potential takes place. In the next video, we will discuss spatial summation, temporal summation, facilitation, etc.